Hi friends, it's Miss Cindy. Hey, we are starting a new theme this week, and our new theme is called Light and Shadows. Have you ever seen a shadow? Sometimes you can make a shadow. Sometimes if you put your hands up, you can make shadow puppets, and we're going to do that a little later. But right now, we're going to read a story. And before we read the story, I want to talk a little bit about shadows. How do you make a shadow? What do you need to make a shadow? I'm going to show you real quick. Our story today has a bear in it. So I brought my little friend Bear out, and we're going to see if he can make a shadow. Do you see his shadow on the wall right now? No shadow. What you need to make a shadow is light. So I'm going to bring out my light. I don't have a flashlight handy, but I do have a phone handy. So what I'm going to do is use the phone's flashlight, and you can do that too if your mom or dad can let you use their phone or somebody, or you can find a flashlight at your house. But this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to put it really close to Bear, and now do you see what happens? He's got a great big shadow. The closer I move the light, the bigger the shadow gets. And if I move it away, the shadow gets smaller, right? Look at that. Now what will happen if I move the shadow or the light over here? The shadow moves, doesn't it? See, when I move the light source, the shadow moves. The shadow moves depending on where the light is. And that's what we're going to read a story today about a bear who is going to try to get rid of his shadow. Do you think he'll be able to get rid of his shadow? This story is called Moonbear's Shadow. And the author of this story is Frank Ash. And you know what? He is the illustrator of this story too. What does that mean? Do you remember? The illustrator draws the pictures and the author writes the words. Good job. Let's read about Moonbear's shadow. One day, Bear went down to the pond with his fishing pole and a big can of worms. And while he was putting a worm on the hook, he looked down and he saw a big fish. I'm going to catch that fish, thought Bear to himself. Can you see the fish in the water? I see it. And I see something else over here. I see Bear's shadow. And I see the fishing pole and the can's shadow. But when Bear stood up to throw his line in the water, his shadow scared the big fish away. Go away, shadow, cried Bear. But Bear's shadow would not go away. Look, his shadow moved. Why did his shadow move and scare the fish away? Do you remember what happened when we moved the light and moved the bear? The shadow moved, didn't it? So maybe because Bear moved, his shadow moved. Okay, said Bear. If you won't go away on your own, then I will just have to get rid of you. Do you think he's going to be able to get rid of his shadow? And he put down his fishing pole and he began to run. And he ran around the pond, and when he got to the other side, he just kept running. Does it look like his shadow is going away? It's still there, isn't it? Do you see some light that might be causing him to make a shadow? He's not inside and he doesn't have a flashlight. I wonder what is making his shadow. You think you know? What kind of light is outside? That's right, the sun. The sun can make a shadow outside because the sun is a light. And he ran through the field of flowers and he jumped over the brook and he hid behind a tree. A brook is like a little stream of water. He jumped right over that and he has a shadow in the water. Good, thought Bear now. Now my shadow can't find me. Do you see his shadow anymore? I don't see Bear's shadow, but I see a big long shadow of the tree, and I see the flower's shadow. Where do you think Bear's shadow went? Do you think it's gone? Did he finally lose it? But Bear was wrong. When he stepped out from behind the tree, the first thing he saw was his shadow. It was just hiding behind the big shadow of the tree. Nearby was a cliff. And Bear walked over to the cliff and he looked up. I will climb so high that Shadow won't be able to follow me, thought Bear. Do you think it's going to work if he climbs up the cliff? Bear climbed higher and higher until at last he pulled himself up to the top of the cliff. Huffing and puffing, he smiled with pride. And then he looked down and he saw his shadow. It followed him all the way up the cliff. How is he ever going to get rid of this shadow? Now Bear was very annoyed. Do you know what annoyed means? Annoyed means he's kind of upset and frustrated. He's getting a little bit angry. When you're annoyed, you're a little bit angry. Have you ever been annoyed? I've been annoyed. And so he went home and he got a hammer and some nails to nail his shadow to the ground. Do you think that will work? He hammered and he hammered and he hammered, but no matter how many nails he hammered, he couldn't nail that shadow to the ground. Look, when he got up, his shadow wasn't nailed to the ground. There were just a bunch of nails in the ground and his shadow was over here. If I can't nail him down, thought Bear, maybe I can bury him. So he got his shovel and he dug a hole. And when the hole was deep and wide, he let his shadow fall into the hole. I see the shovel's shadow, and now Bear's shadow is down there in the hole. Do you think he can bury his shadow? That might do it. Then Bear filled in the hole with dirt. And when he was finished, it was almost noon outside. And the sun was high in the sky, and the shadow was nowhere to be seen. At last, sighed Bear, no more shadow. It's gone. He buried it. What a good idea. But now Bear was very tired. Did he make you tired? So he went outside and he went inside and he took a little nap. There he is in his little bed. Kind of looks like Baby Bear's bed in the Three Bears story. Yeah, looks like Baby Bear in his little bed. And while he slept, time passed too, and the sun once again cast shadows everywhere. The sun is up in the air and there's no shadow. And the sun moved and there's a little shadow, and it moved some more and made it bigger. And it moved all the way down and made a great big shadow. Remember when we moved our flashlight, it made the bear's shadow bigger and smaller? When the light moves, the shadow changes size. And when Bear got up and opened his door, he saw his shadow on the floor. Oh, not you again, exclaimed Bear. And then he slammed the door, hoping to lock Shadow inside. But Shadow was too quick. Shadow made it outside. How's that shadow there again? I thought he buried him. Sighed Bear. How about this? If you let me catch a fish, then I'll let you catch one too. Nod your head like this if it's a deal. And when Bear nodded his head, Shadow nodded too. Why did Shadow nod his head when Bear nodded his? Because your shadow does whatever you do, right? So Bear went back to the pond, and once again he threw his line into the water. And by this time, the sun was in a different part of the sky, which made it easy for Shadow to keep his part of the deal. Oh, the shadow is going behind him now, instead of in front of him to the water. He's not going to scare the fish now because his shadow is back here. And when Bear caught a big fish, Shadow caught one too. See Bear's fish? See Shadow's fish? And that was a really cool story all about shadows and how shadows work. So you can play around with shadows today. If you can find a flashlight, you can make shadows in your house. Because I don't think there's going to be a lot of shadows outside today because it's a rainy day. So the sun might not be shining real bright to go outside to make a shadow, but you can make some with a flashlight inside. So I hope to see some cool pictures of shadows. Now, I took some pictures of shadows today, and I'm going to put them on class tag so you can see them. And I want to see some of your pictures of shadows that you find today too. All right, I'm super excited. I'm going to have another activity for you a little bit later, all about shadows. I can't wait to see you again. Bye, guys.